Great. So let's jump right into it. We're back with another episode of Breakdown, talking about the recent meta development in Duel Commander. And I'm accompanied by Kinky again.
Hi everyone.
Cheers.
There's been lots of meta development since I think last time we predicted Inala will get banned and Ragavan will get banned, right?
Yeah, correct. I think
Which has come true.
exactly, but I think that was pretty obvious.
I don't think anyone would have predicted that those cards wouldn't get banned. So
All right.
yeah, I think we're 2 for 2 on those, but I think everyone else is too, so it doesn't really count.
Right. So, what are we going to talk about today? We have a few new commanders, or not necessarily new commanders, also old commanders on the line currently. A few days ago, we made a poll on our YouTube channel, and we've just asked you of 5 commanders which is the most powerful in your opinion. And we've put to vote Aminatou, Tevesh, Asmo, Hogak, and Vinota, and it looks like the majority thinks that Aminatu is currently the most powerful deck, which is it that surprising?
No, not really. I think it's omnipresent. I think every tournament of Duel Commander that I've played since I started playing 3 years ago now, I've always seen Aminatou at the tables. They There has been a consistent amount of good cards that have been printed for the deck, and the Esper pool is strong. I think I've said this on the channel before, and I've piloted Aminatou on the channel before. I always stay away from the deck because in every tournament, every time the round ends and the turns are called, it's always the Aminatu players
Yep.
that are still sitting there waiting in the second game when they won the first one or something like that. They always play into turns and it drags out the tournaments. And yeah, playing decks like that is exhausting to do for 7 rounds in a row. Playing
Absolutely.
7 hours of Magic continuously, never having time to order food if you're somewhere where you can get food or take breaks. I don't have the stamina to play Aminatou, and I will admit that freely.
Great. Like, okay, other people seem to have that stamina.
Exactly.
I think yeah, they just enjoy to play, and as you said, like recent sets have brought a good amount of new additions. I think Out of Time was in a discussion which has a pretty, I don't want to say broken synergy, but it's a very powerful synergy with Aminatu.
Yep.
Hmm.
Wishclaw Talisman
Yeah, exactly.
is a card that it's a bit older, but it's like the the way the whole deck comes together with new printings like Prismatic Ending and Dam. Dam is a great card.
All right, right, damn.
Um,
And also there was a new Planeswalker Daken, I think it's
Taken
called.
as well. Yep.
So
Um,
yeah.
lots of lots of powerful cards. It's another one of the decks that can play the most broken card in the format, Deadly Rollick,
Right, right.
and can flash it back with Snapcaster and can do find it with Demonic Tutor, and yeah, it's so there's plenty of strong cards in the deck, and
Definitely. I think Deadly Rollick is a card that we should probably do a separate podcast about.
I
But
mean we could. I am still a bit confused as to why it's not banned in Duel Commander yet.
yeah, right. That's why I'm saying we should do a
It
separate.
feels a little. I think something that when you evaluate it at face value feels a bit off about like wanting to ban it is that Swords to Plowshares exists,
Yeah, right. And
which
people
is
compare it to it.
essentially the same effect as that, but for 1 mana more. And there's lots of 1 mana removal spells like Fatal Push and Blood Chief's Ascension, and there's a couple of other black ones that aren't as good that will destroy non-black creatures, and
Yep.
Oust and Path to Exile. But all those cards have either significant downsides, a sorcery speed, or just don't do that effect as well. And the fact that Deadly Relic exiles, the fact that Deadly Relic can be cast for free, which means you can pass the turn with no mana open, and the opponent either has to hope you don't have a card which is a 1 of 99, or they get blown out. Yeah,
It's
there's a
it
A
can
lot more
cause a
that
lot of
goes into it.
frustration in some
Exactly.
situations.
Yep.
And certainly it's not a card that should be legal in an environment that's focused on strategical plays, because like it takes away the decision, right? Like you just drop your commander, you have a free removal, and yeah,
Yep, I agree.
creates some very awful play patterns. But talking about black magic, we have Tevesh on the rise, or he's already integrated in Duel Commander Magic, let's say it like this. Pretty powerful partner, pretty powerful planeswalker. People complain a lot about planeswalker commanders since Aminatu is actually a deck. And I think back then when Jeska and I think it was Jeska and Tevesh were printed, people brought up that topic again, that planeswalker commanders could be problematic. Nowadays, I wouldn't say Tevesh is problematic, but if we look at the Czech meta, the Philippines meta, the German meta as well, there are a bunch of Tevesh combinations. People usually just try to combine them with another partner to get access to another color, or some of them also play the mono black plan. Whatever you go for, most often it's pretty powerful. We've talked about that prior to the podcast, that the only in quotes, the only problem Tevesh deck might have is that those decks tend to have huge problems against control deck, like real control decks. Like Aminatou, Izika's pretty popular as a 5-color control deck recently in France, simply because most of the piles are built in a way that they use the card advantage Tevesh produces in mid or late game, or like they, for example, recently I've seen a Orzhov version from a Philippine tournament, I guess, with Tevesh and Livio. And that's a good example, for example. You just combine Tevesh with some not so efficient partner, and you use or abuse the card pool this color combination has to offer. And once you play all the cards, I think it was a more like a hate beerish aggressive type of deck. Once you put down all your cards on the table, you just refuel by casting Tevesh using his abilities, which is quite good.
Yeah, I think he definitely kind of is one of those really powerful late game commanders, and the most of the decks that he's played in can get to the late game. It really is just him being countered on his first cast that will slow those decks down significantly. But I really like him. I play him with the green elf, the 3-mana elf that taps for a mana, and I think it's the first green-black deck that I've played in Duel Commander that's kind of strong. There was Rehan Ikra before, but that's nowhere near as strong as or I don't think that deck was anywhere near as strong as the Tevesh version.
Yeah, totally
And
agree to that.
but I think it's cool that we, as you might know, we here in Darmstadt are all about partner magic, or were all about partner magic till all of them got banned.
Most of them, the bad ones, left.
The bad ones are left, and I think Tevesh probably isn't one of the bad ones, but we'll see. I mean, I think there isn't much hesitation to banning partners in the Duel Commander committee, so he might just go at some point,
Right, right.
just because he's playable.
But probably
I think it's
also
cool.
because the card seems, or like the no matter which combination you choose, the commander itself seems to be quite polarizing. Like people start to, because especially aggressive decks have quite some problems to deal with Tevesh due to the thralls he produces, or it produces. So that could be a reason that like people suddenly start to add pithing needles and whatsoever in order to deal with it. And I don't know if that's a favorable meta development.
I agree, but I just really like having partner decks in the meta where you can there's not really a good blue-black commander, so you can play Tevesh and the pirate, and there's not really a good green-black deck, so you can play Tevesh and the elf.
Right, right.
And having that kind of freedom to build decks and have a card that is reasonable at the helm and not have to be so incredibly commander focused in the deck as other decks have to be is cool. And for me it's a positive influence on the meta.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how the Duel Commander committee feels about that.
Yeah, right. So it definitely brings back some 2-color combinations that, well, were not really outdated, but for example, the Philippine favorite one is the Demo combination, I guess, with Malcolm. And let's be honest, Malcolm is a pretty bad card. Like
Yep.
3 mana
And
casting into 2 flying. But Tevesh is that good that it just compensates the downsides of this deck.
And if Tevesh was banned, there wouldn't be any blue-black deck that could replace it, that could do a similar thing, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could start playing Lazav again, but I think that's one guy in Prague that does that. And
if that's even the case, still, I don't think so.
yeah,
I'm
I
not sure
didn't
about
see him at the last tournament. So
yeah, right. I think he played something else. I mean, yeah, as you said, there's nothing comparable. Like also talking about a competitive environment, right? Like
exactly.
I was just thinking about what was the last Orzhov deck that was really threatening. First,
Well, Karlov.
exactly. That's the first
Right.
thing that came to my mind, and I'm not sure about how it was called. I think it was called Kilian. It was this Orzhov guy. I played it
you played
on
it.
cam once
Yeah.
with Menace. That deck was quite cool. I tried to run it as a hate bearish aggro deck in that direction, and it had exactly the problem I was talking about. Like you're pretty dependent on your starting hand, and once you run out of cards that could influence the game state, you're pretty much screwed. I mean, you're in top deck mode, and yeah. Tevesh is again fixing that for you. So
Yep.
Let's see how the future looks. Some other things I find quite interesting, just because we talked about Malcolm, is that there's a Azorius tempo deck, which is played in France mainly, with Levio and Malcolm. I have to be honest, I think that's the worst command zone I've ever seen, because both cards evaluated in a vacuum are pretty bad, but the combination creates a playable Azorius deck. And it looks like players are quite successful with it, because we have some recent events, the Prime event it was, I guess, at which people got into top 8 and or top 16. Top 8 for sure, top 16 is not sure about that one. Anyways, I think that's quite an interesting development. I think we will look into this list as well, maybe show it on camera once or twice. I'm definitely interested to play it. I think it's just cool to have a UE tempo deck in a format.
Ooh, there's a Sarah's Avenger or
Yeah,
a Sarah Avenger.
and it's actually a card that fits quite well into the game plan.
Yes, yes.
That's really cool. It has some nice synergies and some nice cards. And recently the sets, Dungeons and Dragons or Forgotten Realms. I don't get the exact name, but you have another good 1 mana white removal spell, which is Portable Hole. We got Prismatic Ending from Modern Horizons 2, and so on. So the deck got some adjustments or improvements, and yeah, I'm curious to see how it performs. I will play it here in Darmstadt, but I think it's a cool addition to the format overall. Currently, I'm totally in love with Asmo. You know that, Kinky. I think that's also a very powerful deck. It's not too powerful, but it is something you should keep in mind when entering a tournament currently.
Yep, I think it's a definitely one of those. There are cool things happening in this decks, and it's quite fun to play, and you have some very strong synergy turns.
Yep, and it also brings back, like, I mean, sometimes you open your binder and it's like, when was the last time I could play a Patrid Imp, for example?
Yeah.
And it's now is the time. Like, that's amazing.
Yep.
So the meta overall currently is very diverse, and I like that. Like if I look at the last major events from Prague and France, there isn't like, it's not like the top 8 is stacked with 2 or 3 decks. Instead, you have White Weenie, Red Deck wins. We talked about that prior to the podcast as well, that those decks somehow they celebrate a comeback because they have some recent printings, Maddening Hex, for example, for the Red Deck Wins deck. White Weenie got some additions, and they were never really bad decks. Like, maybe sometimes in a bad positioning meta-wise, but like it's never a bad idea to pick up Red Deck Wins, for example, from my point of view.
Yep, and there'll be times where it'll be super strong, like for example when Ragavan is legal, and there'll be times when you've got Kari, and Kari has been a staple commander in the format since since it was printed, basically.
Yep.
And I guess there's the new one. I think her name is Ayla. The 3-mana
Laelia.
2/2.
Laelia, I
Um,
guess.
yep, you'll see it on screen, I'm guessing, which is very cool, and I really like that card. And so, yeah, I think Red Deck Wins is always a viable card in the a viable deck, unless there's something legal like Omnath or Uro, which kind of makes it so that some of the opponents that you play against will have infinite life totals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Laelia, by the way, is also a great addition to your 99. Whenever you go for an aggressive
Yep.
strategy,
Definitely.
it's this card is just underestimated. But that's
Yep.
for another day. Otherwise, if we would talk about single includes, we could have 8 hours straight away.
Yep. Something else that I am interested in, but as I've said on the channel before, I would never take to a tournament, is Enchantress is playable at the moment with Sithis.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's such a cool deck.
it's a
Like,
cool deck, and it faces the same issue as as Aminatu does. I think it just takes too long to win games, so I'd never take it to a competitive tournament. But nevertheless, it's a very cool deck, and I respect anyone who does play it.
and
And
some people actually reached some good results with it.
yep,
So we've seen some lists in the top 8 here recently. I would have to check it again, but yeah, I think there are different strategies. Some people try to go for a Boggles version with a lot of auras, like the beatdown plan. Back in the days, that was called Voltron, I guess, when you had commander damage in Duel Commander with 30 HP. And other people go the Staxy controllish plan. But the lists are very diverse, which is quite cool to see. I mean, you try to abuse Solemnity magic as much as possible.
yep,
Other people try to put as many enchantments on the battlefield to use mana from Serra Sanctum, cast big stuff. I don't know, I've seen early Ember Cools cast turn 5 and stuff like this, which is also very cool.
yep.
Or Starfield of Nyx. Stuff like that. And that's what I meant. Like, the meta currently is super diverse, and I like to see that. So let's see how that goes on. Let's see what Wizards is going to print within the next sets. Like the next one is Innistrad, which I think it has no relevant legendaries, right?
Not that I
Yeah,
remember off the top of my head.
we didn't even do a review on that because I think from our perspective the whole edition was not very spectacular.
I think there are definitely some cool single slots coming in
Absolutely.
in the format, like the new Shock and the Better Opt. But I think in terms of legendary creatures, there isn't much that's interesting. I'm looking right now. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, me neither.
Maybe the ooze, Slogurk, the Overslime.
Right. I think I like the advisory circle. Was it advisory? The 5 mythic boys that come with an ability you can pay
Oh
anytime.
yes.
Those
They'll
were
they'll be
quite
they'll
nice.
they'll be interesting.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. But
but
apart
I don't
from
think
that,
any of them were broken either.
no,
I think
no,
they just had
no, I
strong
don't think so either.
strong effects.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
So I
So
think we're at our ban list announcement part. Well, not ban list announcement, but I guess predictions of possible changes to the ban list. As I said before, I would still like to see Rollick banned. I think it's just
too powerful.
doesn't fit the format.
Yeah, I agree.
Then I guess Tevesh is a good partner, which means it probably will end up on the ban list. Apart from that, unbans, we've heard rumors of Marath being an incredibly powerful, not possible to be unbanned card. I don't think that's the case. I think it's obsolete to still be on the ban list. I don't see any reason for that card to remain banned.
Yeah.
Another card that I think doesn't need to be on the ban list is Loyal Retainers. There isn't a reanimator deck in the format.
Right. And
People don't
there's
really attempt to have a reanimator deck in the format. I think the only reason that it's banned, if I remember correctly, is that you have survival of the fittest and that you can discard a creature, tutor for a
loyal
good card
retainer.
like Gristlebrand or Iona, and then tutor again for a loyal retainers, and then cast the loyal retainers and put that card into play. That's a line that requires that you can play turn 3 survival, turn 4 you can bin those cards, and then At turn 3, you can bin those cards, and turn 4, you can cast Loyal Retainers. It's a very telegraphed line. There's lots of graveyard hate in the format, incidentally, on cards like Kaya's Guile and Cling to Dust. And I really don't see Loyal Retainers as a threatening card in the format currently. And I guess one last card would be Genesis Storm, which
Yeah,
got banned
that's
because it
our
was powerful with Uro, and before that it was played with
Tymna
Thrasios, which is also banned in the format now. So I guess you could plot it into some random deck and have a 6 mana win condition where you have to have cast your commander twice before playing it.
Yeah, but probably we're also a bit biased on that because we have
Yes,
more or less, I don't want to say established the deck, but well, at
I'm
least
pretty sure we did. Right, Martin played that deck a lot, and
yeah, at least with the Tymna Thrasios, like the combination, we got
yeah,
that one. So it's more or less like it's your baby. But no, it was a cool deck, and the ban during the Euro phase or time was probably legit. But as you said, both decks that can run the card are out now, and I'm not very convinced that a Leovold version could fit the game plan as good as the other two combinations would have done.
yep.
But we will see. I mean, in the end, it's still a one card combo, and we know Scapeshift is banned because people don't like to lose against one card combos, so that might be a reason to keep it on the ban list, at least for the committee.
Yep, yep.
Okay, I think we have to wrap up here.
I think we've said all there is to say.
Yeah, we had a long one today. Anyways, guys,
Thanks for
you.
listening.
Yes, thank you very much. We hope that you enjoyed this session. Please leave your comments, thoughts, whatsoever down in the comments. Talk to us. We're curious about your opinion on this, on all the topics we've just discussed, and let us know your thoughts. So if there isn't anything else, I would say have a good morning, midday, evening, whatever time it is.
Whenever you listen to our voices.
Exactly. Okay, with that being said, have a good one.
Have a good one.